This is an overview of my paper, Tax Evasion Activities in Financially Constrained Firms, Evidence from Sub-Saharan Africa. What problem does the paper seek to address? Despite its importance, African countries are unable to adequately mobilize tax revenue to finance their development needs. In 2018, tax revenue as a share of GDP in Africa was 16.6%, significantly lower than Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as OECD countries at 23.1% and 33.9%, respectively. In part, tax evasion underpins the low tax revenue problem across African countries. UNECA estimates that $100 billion is lost through tax evasion across the continent annually. What's the hypothesis the paper puts forward, and also what empirical strategy does the paper adopt? I hypothesize that lack of access to credit facilities is likely to lead to firm tax evasion, as firms are unable to gain access to external finance, which causes them to hoard revenues internally through tax evasion. I also use the instrumental variables approach. I estimate the effect of the difficulty in accessing finance variable, which is the key independent variable, on a tax evasion proxy, which is measured as the share of a firm's sales reported for tax purposes, with 100% signaling full compliance. I used whether a firm has overdraft payments as the instrumental variable. What methodology does the paper adopt? I regress percent reported sales, which is the measure of tax evasion, on financial constraints represented by the difficulty in accessing finance, a host of firm-specific characteristics, a host of country-level control variables, and then I include country and year fixed effects to control for unobserved heterogeneity that are constant over time across countries and survey years. I also include the error term. The data that was used was the World Bank Enterprise Survey collected between 2006 and 2020, which covers 35,383 firms from 43 African countries. The main results obtained is graduating to a higher level of financing difficulty is associated with a statistically significant 0.33% reduction in the share of sales reported for tax purposes. Other controls include firms for which the tax rate is an obstacle are less likely to evade tax. Also, firms that sell a high share of their products locally as opposed to selling on the international market are more likely to evade tax. Results for the subsamples include firms in the manufacturing industry relative to the services industry are more likely to evade tax in cases where access to finance becomes a severe obstacle. Among regions, the negative effect of financial constraints on tax evasion is present only in Central Africa. Differentiating firms by gender of owner shows that the effect of financial constraints is present in male-owned firms. What are the key policy implications? First, beyond enforcement, improving access to external finance via improving credit markets is vital to ensuring tax compliance. Second, difficulties in accessing credit facilities from financial institutions should be eliminated, while additional affordable finance should be created, especially for businesses. Third, African tax authorities should reduce the direct and indirect financial costs associated with tax filing.